Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we have a B450M Mortar Max from MSI on our table. The version number is the MS7B89 version 1.1. I've never worked on this kind of board before, but it is a standard AM4 B450 board. And this came to me for not starting anymore. This died from one day to another, I was told. Um, the board looks not too great of condition, as you can see maybe there and there. There's exposed copper. If I go a little bit closer, we have exposed copper traces there and also there. And yeah, someone has been really rough with the cooler. And because it turned off for him, or from one day to another didn't work, I would expect to maybe be something with some sort of power supply. So this time we're actually going to make some measurements from the beginning to see if anything is shorted or has lower resistance than it should have. So let's start with 12 volts up here. Getting 11 kilo ohms, that is what we expect. So let's get a good ground here. See, are these USB ports grounded? They seem to be. So this is VPP 2.5. This looks good. This should be 105 for the PCH. This looks good. 28. This should be something related to the PCH. This is quite high. Interesting. Okay. This also should be something related to the PCH. Also has really high. Interesting. Okay. Let's further check. This should be, I think, 5 volts. This should be 12 volts, I think. This should be 3.3 volts. And this is 5 VSB. And this one here is PS on. And all looks very good. Let's see. This is, I think, the ground side. Let's see. This should be DDR voltage. This also looks good. And yeah, this is the most important things I would check now. One more thing that we can check together. Let's see for the voltage of the battery. 3.05, that looks healthy. Let's go around the SIO, around some random capacitors. And this all seems to be fine. So, I couldn't see anything that would be wrong with this for now. So what we're now going to do is we're going to build this up and see how it reacts, what it does. Because this was for the first time, for the beginning, the most important things to check in terms of shorts. And let's now see how this will react when we supply power to it and when we try to boot with our APU. And now we have everything built up. 2200G in here, VGA, 1 stick of RAM. I have a postcard in the TPM slot of the spot. MSI seems to always have, seems to work in the TPM for debugging. And we can see 110 milliamps. That looks very healthy. Let's press the power button and see what happens. And what I can instantly see is that we have static power consumption, and we have 0 on my post card, which means we didn't start to load any of the BIOS, so there's no debugging start. So I would expect maybe even vCore to be missing, and this looks to me of like one of the cases I had often where there's a missing component and something about enabling the CPU is not there. Let's see if this is warm. And the CPU does get warm, so CPU vCore is definitely present, but there's probably some enable problem here. And yeah, So we have two options. First option is to now flash the BIOS. Second option would be to look for broken off components. And I would start with the option of looking around for broken components for physical damage. Something that prevents the CPU from being initialized. So I'm gonna quickly do that off camera and get you back as soon as I find something. And if not, we're going to go over for BIOS flushing. And I was able to see a single knocked off component so far. This is right next to this 0 ohm resistor. There should be a component there. And looking at the board view, we have the backside of this main board. And this is our 0 ohm resistor. And this one is supposed to be a 10k ohm resistor. So let's place back that 10k ohm resistor and see if this will work. So now we are fully built back up, and let's see now. What I hope for is to instantly get some boot codes, and that would confirm for me that the CPU then is loading its debugging code from the BIOS and that it would be working. So let's now see. And so far it looks like we have the exact same behavior. I don't think that we have boot. Yep, we're stuck on CPU LED. Well then, seems like that wasn't our only problem. There might be even some more physical damage. So this was not the thing. I'm gonna have a little bit more of a look. And if I can't find anything else, we're going to flash the BIOS. So let me have a look at what I can find as well. So surprisingly, I wasn't actually able to find any more physical damage on this board, even though I really expected it after I already have found something. The next thing I'm going to do is to flash the BIOS on this. And the good thing is this has a BIOS flashback function, as you can see right there, with the small little power button. There's probably going to be either one of these ports be needing for plugging in the USB with the right BIOS. And what I'm going to do then is try to flash another version onto here, and then we're going to see each other and we're going to try to boot this up again. So the flushing progress has been done, and let's now see if this is going to post now. Let's turn it on and press the power button. And we still only have a CPU LED. This is very bad, so we're still stuck on this same thing as we had before. Well, guess it's time for us to actually take some voltage measurements and see what kind of voltage rails are running and which ones are not. We have 0.8, interesting. 0.9, this might be right, this might be wrong, not too sure. 0.9, this seems to be the same thing. 1.8 volts, this looks fine. See here, 1.05 volts. This is 12 volts incoming for the power here. This should be 3.3 volts. This is for the SIO. This looks good as well. What can we also check? Let's check some of that some of these capacitors up here. And we can see almost 1.1 volts. So this seems to be also present. Probably V-core. So most of our stuff seems to be present here. Let's see, on my tester, VTT is present. VPP should be present because this is powered off of VPP. 2.5, so VPP is present as well. So I cannot find anything right now that is actually preventing us from booting. Let's try a different CPU in here. I wouldn't expect that to help, but I actually cannot find anything else right now. So I don't really expect this to change anything, but let's just try it out. Oh. Huh. This actually seems to change something. We are now currently on a DRAM LED and not on a CPU LED anymore. Interesting. Let's turn this off once more. Because I don't have a VGA anymore. Because before we had an APU, now we have a normal CPU without the graphics on here. So let's get the GPU onto here. Get that connected. And let's connect the DRAM in a different slot because we had a different we had a DRAM error. And let's now try again. And I seem to get postcodes. We get restarting. This looks very good. Are you going to turn on by itself again? You turned off by yourself? Let's try this once more. No? Okay, let's reset by turning off the power supply. Let's drain the 3VSB by holding down the power button for a little bit. And now let's turn it on again. Okay, we're turning on. And now we're back to stuck CPU LED. Did we just kill the BIOS again? Seems like we just killed the BIOS again by it getting stuck like it was. That would be very unfortunate. Let's turn this off. And let's try that again. Try to turn it on. But we're getting stuck on a CPU LED again. This is behaving very strangely. So we definitely had a DRAM LED before. And now we have no recognition anymore. Let's try to reseat the CPU. So we've reseated the CPU and let's switch RAM sticks back and see if that has any difference here. And let's turn it on again. And instantly DRAM LED. Interesting. Now we're going to get further than a DRAM LED. But we seems to be stuck with this DRAM LED. Let's see for different slots. Let's turn this off. Let's get this out of here and try one slot by one slot. And instantly DRAM again. Still a DRAM issue. Very interesting. And when putting the memory into the third slot, we actually are stuck on CPU LED now. And we do not go to DRAM anymore. This is very, very strange. What is this posting behavior? Let's go to the fourth one. And on the fourth one, we seem to have the same behavior. Very weird. Let's turn this off. Let's get a different DDR4 stick here. And let's put it into the very first slot. And also with this one, we get a instant DRAM in one of the first two slots. But we do not seem to get further than that. So we're still stuck on DRAM. So DRAM, I would think that either some lines are broken. I saw some of the lines were dinged on the back side of the board, but I didn't think anyone were broken. The other thing that I would expect is the BIOS to be broken, but it seemed to have flashed fine. When I use the flashback function. I might flash the BIOS again, but using the method where I connect to the header next to the BIOS chip. One more thing that we can try is, after I've tested this one in the other slots now, is to use our DDR4 data line tester and see if that gives any hints if anything is broken or not. Because so far, I'm clueless to what is happening on this board, to be honest. This is a very weird posting behavior. So in channel A, we seem to get stuck on DRAM, and in channel B, we seem to not have CPU recognition. So we've now tested all of these slots with two different sticks, and let's now get the tester on here. The DDR tester, and see if that can give us any clues what could be wrong here. So there's actually a single LED missing there on the bottom right there. I'm gonna get my microscope into here so you can see that. And as you can see, that LED is not lit up. DQ67. Interesting. And that line is also broken in the first slot. Interesting. So let's now go into the third slot and see for this one. And interestingly enough, in the third slot, I cannot find any LED that is not lit up. So I would have definitely expected it to be the other way around. So in the third and fourth slot, we actually get all of the LEDs. First thing that we're going to do is let's see if resetting the CPU several times will have a difference on this. So nothing that I'm doing to the slot changes the LED. So what we need to do is to go to the backside and see for that damage that I've seen before. So this is the kind of damage that we have on the backside on this mainboard. And we would now have to see if any of these lines are actually broken. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Dremel and going to Dremel some of these parts away before and after the dings in the board, and then we're going to see if those have continuity or not. And now we have a multimeter in continuity mode, and let's see. This one has continuity. This one also is good. And that one is also good. So this was not the problem that we were looking for. I don't think this one will be a problem, like this top one there. And I also think these won't be a problem. So I will have to continue my search, because as far as of now I cannot see anything that would break the line. So I will continue my search and then get you back up. After a lot of searching, I think I've found the problem, which is this spec that you can see in the middle right here. This is, I think, broken, and this took quite some investigating, and I want to show you how I did it. So we going from the point that we know DQ57 was broken. This one line was broken. So the next thing we have to do is now to go to a schematic of an AM4 board. So this is a little bit complicated. So the weird thing is that these Chinese testers actually use the description of what would be in a schematic. So this schematic is not specific to the board that we were repairing. As you can see, this is a B450 tough that we took it from. But it doesn't matter, because this is basically all the time the same, because it's DDR4 and an AM4 socket. That is the most important thing. And the B450. And what we had was DQ57. And for DQ57, the corresponding pin is pin 275. And with this, we can work in our board view. This is the very important thing. So we go into our board view now. And in our board view, we are on a DIMM. So you just take one of the DIMMs, and then you scroll down to 275, which is MA data 57 in this case. So we know this is the 14th pin. As you can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the 14th pin. And what I was doing, I was looking if I could see any traces going to here. And there's a lot of traces going from here to there. This could have been it. But I didn't find anything that was looking bad. So I went to the back. This is the socket. And then I counted from the bottom. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The 7th pin. And let's go under the microscope again. So now let's count together. This is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th pin. And as you can see, the lines is going on the backside of the board. You have the 7th pin, and you can see this trace going here, this squiggly line, and then I was able to find this break here. So this must be our break. It is so small, but it is actually a break. And let's now see if we can Dremel this away, jump this gap, and then see if we get the first post out of this board. And here now you can very clearly see it being broken. And now it should be easy, just getting some solder onto there, jumping it with a little wire, and then let's see if we can get this thing to post. Now this is bridged. As you can see, our connection is established on DQ57. Let's build this up and let's see if anything has changed, if we now can get into the BIOS. So we got everything built up. We have one RAM stick in there. And let's see now if we now get post. Let's watch these indicator LEDs. CPU turning on and off. And still cycling on CPU. And there's a VGA LED. And that seems like a post screen. Looks garbled, but it is a post screen. Okay, it turned off by itself. Are you going to turn on by yourself again? Yes, it's going to turn on again. And now still stuck on a CPU LED, turning off, and it should turn on again. Are you now going to turn on by yourself again? This thing behaves very, very weirdly. So I actually suspect there still might be something wrong with the BIOS on this. We might have to flash it manually to see if anything will change. Let's turn this off once more. Let's drain the 3 VSB and let's connect this in this slot here and try this again. See as if with the restart we get something different, because we were able to get a single post screen out of this. So everything should be fine except the BIOS maybe. And it turned off again by itself and turning on again by itself. And now we have a post screen. Very interesting. I removed the TPM header, or the PCIe card in the TPM, and I removed the DDR card, and now we actually have post. Very interesting. Let's turn this off for a second, and let's connect one things after another and see what caused the problem. So I'm going to plug in the TPM card again. So after plugging in the TPM header, this actually prevents the boot, which is very, very weird. So let's turn this off. Interesting that this PCIe card prevents it from posting, even though it shows totally normal post codes. So with this we're booting totally fine. And now the big question is, how many RAM slots can we get into here for this to boot with? So I would expect from what we had that the first 2 slots are going to work. And the important thing is going to be if the 3rd and 4th slot is going to boot or not. So out of the 1st and 2nd we do get boot, as you can see. And now let's see for the important part, if this will work. Interesting, and this seems to also work. So this wasn't working before. As you can see, we now booted with 3 RAM sticks. And let's now see with the 4th one in. And this is great news. We are actually posting with the 2600 in here with all of the RAM sticks connected. So let's turn this off. The only thing that is now weird to me is that the 2000G, 2200G wouldn't post, and the 3000G also wouldn't post. So I want to try those Maybe there needs to be a BIOS update. Maybe this isn't compatible with those even. But being at the point where we are right now is already a great thing. And no, the 2200G also posts. That is very good to know. As you can see, we're now cycling with CPU, turning on and off because the new CPU has been installed, and it also has to um, shuffle the things around because this is an APU, but we're now using a GPU for video output, so it needs to restart a couple of times, but we get VGA, and now we have boot with the 2200G, which is great. So, I believe we fixed this mainboard. I'm going to do my usual tests. And I hope you learned something. The big thing to take out from this is that the whatever is written on here is not the exact thing that you're going to see on the board view, but you will need to go into some kind of some schematic for B450 and look out for the pinout where the DSQ57 in this case goes on the socket, and then you have to find out, okay, does my trace go on the top side of the board or on the bottom side of the board? You have to kind of trace it out, look under the socket. You can only do that with a microscope, otherwise it won't work. And then you have to see if you can find any damage on the traces, because this is a direct path most of the time between the RAM and the CPU socket, so there's no components in between. There's only lines on the board itself. And yeah, this way it was a very interesting behavior because of the missing connection on the A channel. The B channel also wasn't working, which is very weird because the B channel showed everything as normal and everything is working, but as far as it seems, that prevented it from booting. So I don't know how that comes together. And also we had this one knocked off component on the backside. So there were multiple things wrong with this. And it can't not be, as the seller said, that from one day to another it failed to post anymore. Because as we are able to see, this had physical damage on multiple occasions. So thank you very much for watching. I'm going to be testing this board. Hope you learned something. This has been Mainboard Medic. Thank you very much and goodbye.